Welcome back to the Towka Talks podcast. Today I'm joined by Eric Casares. He is a former NCAA Division I cross country and track athlete at Texas A&M University. He is currently training and competing at an elite level of U.S. distance running and has a ton of insight and wisdom to share with runners of all ages and abilities. Eric, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Jonathan, appreciate you having me on, man. This is fun. I know we've been trying to figure this out the last few weeks, so the fact that we were able to sit down on a Saturday night when college football is going on and just be able to talk ball, and I don't mean football, but running ball. It's always a good thing, man. So I'm excited. I appreciate it.
I mean, of course. So let's just start from pretty much the beginning of your career. You obviously have been running for a long time now. What got you into running in the first place?
Yeah, so I like to tell people that as cliche as it sounds, I kind of just fell into it. Like literally, I started in middle school, was too small to do anything else, was too short to do anything else. I remember it vividly when I was in seventh grade, and I knew going in that I wanted to play football because football was my favorite sport growing up to watch, but I didn't have the size to really be competitive in it. I was too small, and but I knew I still wanted to play a sport. I didn't want to go into middle school where they were offering a sport and not be able to play because I didn't want to do nothing. And I never grew up as an athletic type, so I was never in club sports when I was younger, like some of the other parents would put their kids in at a young age. But I always knew that if it was offered in school, I would play. And so when football came around, I tried out. They had cuts at the time at Hillwood where you had to make it, or else if you got cut, you could be on the team, of course. And I made the cuts, and I was so happy because I made the team. But again, I made the cuts, but I might as well have been cut because I was a bench warmer. I never got into the game. If I got into the game, I would go into the game to block or run like a simple route, but they would never throw me the ball. It was, I was kind of just there to be there and kind of enjoy the experience. And so after football ended, I wanted to play another sport because at that point it was like you play basketball or you go to the off season at Hillwood. And off season is like, okay, you just walk around the track for a couple hours or you just goof around, and it wasn't really doing anything. So I went into my sister's room and I knew that there was either basketball off season, and then I heard about this one sport called cross country, and I was like, okay, I don't really know what cross country is. So I kind of researched it, and my initial thought that cross country was we just ran a couple laps around the block. That's what I thought cross country was. I didn't know anything about the dynamics of racing or wearing a bib or short shorts, all the stuff, or putting everybody on a line and then having them run a lot of miles on grass and hills and hay bales and stuff like that. I didn't think anything it was like that. I just thought you ran a couple laps around the block, and that was cross country. So I went into my sister's room after football season, and I said, look, I don't want to do off season. I want to play a sport. Football's done. Should I try out for the basketball team or should I try out for cross country? And she was like, well, I wouldn't run cross country because all you do is run. Like that's literally all you do. And I was like, well, that's not really good advice. So I and then I started thinking about basketball, and I'm like, man, I'm like 4'10", 4'11". I'm 80 pounds. I'm not going to be able to be competitive in basketball. So I was like, you know what? Let's just try out this cross country thing. Went to a couple practices and didn't really know what I was doing. And it honestly took about three meets in to kind of figure out that you have to pace yourself, you have to run, and learn the dynamics of being just on a team. And so once I figured it out, then, started stacking up more races, got a little bit better, figured out I was pretty good at it, and the rest was history. So that's where it kind of all started, was middle school in Hillwood, just not really having anything else to do, falling into it, and then just it taking off pretty quickly.
To piggyback on that, going into high school, would you say that you became a lot more serious and dedicated to the sport? Because obviously, going from middle school, even high school to college, obviously the level gets harder, and then the stakes are a little bit higher as well. Is that pretty much when you became serious about the sport?
For sure. I think really when I got to high school, I started taking it serious, and probably midway through my freshman year when I realized that I had potential to be good and be a really good runner at the state level. And middle school was fun. I knew I was pretty talented. I was one of the faster runners on the team, but I wasn't racing anybody that competitive. When I would go to meets, we would race people around the area, but and I would win, but I wasn't like the competition wasn't crazy, right? And so when I got to eighth grade year, my coach was encouraging me to, he said, "You're going to be on varsity at Central next year. You're going to do really good. Keep training." But again, I didn't think too far ahead of it. And then when I ended up getting to high school, I started realizing that I could, you could get a scholarship to go run and compete on at the collegiate level. So from there on out, when I realized that you have to train, you have to take care of yourself, and you have to commit to it, then that's when I kind of realized that I could be pretty good. And so by then it was probably midway through my freshman year, because going into my freshman year, I was taking it serious, but I wasn't taking it serious enough to do the little things outside and, train every day or go to bed early or eat the right food and, get enough nutrition. It was more just so like just wing it. So I would say probably midway through my freshman year is when I really locked in and started doing the things necessary.
And what did you learn in that process when you did become more serious about the sport and the fact that you dedicated more of your time, effort, and then like pretty much like the amount of stuff that you actually sacrifice along the way to become really great, especially at the state level?
I guess the biggest thing I learned is that there's always room for improvement. I feel like when you're young and you run fast and you do good things, like you think that you're on top of the world, and you believe that you've hit your ceiling, or that you're like nobody can beat you. Like you kind of feel like it's a sense of cockiness and arrogance in a way. But then as you get to the next grade or as you get to the next race, you start racing somebody who's faster than you, who's stronger than you. And then when you see how good they're doing and how much better they are, then that motivates you to want to train even harder. So I think that's what I kind of learned is like as I got older is, man, like I'm good at what I do. I'm very competitive at what I do. I'm committed to what I do, but there's always somebody out there working harder than me. And that's what's kind of driven me every single day, even up to this point, is like I accomplish great things. I get a PR. I do a lot of things, and I feel great about myself. I'm blessed with everything. I don't regret anything that I've done up to this point. But my motivation to keep going is knowing that like there's always somebody out there working harder than me, and I can, as long as I'm getting better, as long as I feel like I'm getting better, that's what drives me. And so that's what I've kind of learned is the sport is, I guess it's humbling, but at the same time like there's so much room for improvement. That's why I love it. It's unpredictable.
So going into college, were you kind of nervous about going, especially Division 1 level? Not everybody in the sport of cross country or even track gets to get to the highest level like that. Were you at all nervous, or like kind of talk to us a little bit about how you prepared physically and mentally for the next stage in your career?
Yeah, my senior year I was probably the most nervous kid out there going into my senior year, or going into my, yeah, senior year, because you start hearing things about college, the recruiting process, where you want to go to school. And at that point, you have your parents stressing you about the SAT and the ACT. You have to have this scored if you want to get into this college, but all you're thinking about, I just want to go there to run. And so balancing the pressure of being a student athlete going into it is scary. And so, yeah, I was very nervous, especially going into my senior year, just thinking about where I wanted to go to college, where I was going to spend the next 4 years of my life. And being so obsessed as a high school senior to winning state. Like I felt like if I didn't win state, I felt like I was a failure, which is a horrible mindset to have because, I even if I didn't win state, like I was still going to get recruited, right? Because of the work I put in, the times I had. But that's not how I thought back then because I was just, a immature 17-year-old kid. And so yeah, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I ended up getting hurt, and I panicked when I got hurt because I felt like that there was going to be college coaches that were just going to kind of sweep me under the rug and just keep moving on and not recruit me because I got hurt. And so yeah, I mean, I went through a little dark place mentally at times, and I panicked, emailed coaches, and called them and spammed them, and still try to like let them know that I was interested. And when they wouldn't get back to me, even if they like for the little stuff, like they could be busy or somewhere traveling, and I would think that they didn't want me or they were ignoring me. So just typical high school young overreaction, immaturity. Uh, and then once I actually finally got into the recruiting process and started visiting schools and meeting coaches, then I started realizing this is not so bad. Like I don't have really any reason to be nervous. And so it was a little bit more smoother once I figured out what school I was going to go to, and then making that transition. I knew that I was ready to make that transition because I mean, I got recruited for a reason, right? Like there's if I it's okay to be nervous, but at the same time like you can't let that affect you because you're getting recruited to go run for them, so you're obviously good enough to be there.
What would be your best advice for somebody who wants to is in or high school right now, wanting to run in college, no matter what the level is, whether it's NCAA and AIA on their own? What's the best piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's considering that right now?
I mean, as cliche as it sounds, just be consistent. Keep showing up every day. Not everybody's gonna make it, and that's okay. But you can't think that way. And if you have goals and dreams of striving to be a collegiate athlete, if you show up every day and you control what you can control, then the rest will take care of itself. As long as you can look back in 5, 10 years and say, I did everything that I could to get to where I am, then that's all that matters. And be happy with your own self accomplishments, because a lot of high schoolers and younger kids, like, they just beat themselves up when they aren't running as fast as somebody else. When you're younger, it's always a comparison game. It's like, I should be running as fast as this person, I should be running as fast as that person, and you beat yourself up. And when you just kind of really sit back and think about the ability that you have to go out every day and run and PR, like, that's a blessing, man. And so my best advice is just keep showing up every day, be consistent, take care of the things that you could control, and the rest will take care of itself. And you'll look back in a couple years and a couple races down the road, and you'll think, man, like, a couple months ago or a couple years ago, I would have dreamed of running this time, right? Like, so it's just like the little things. Like, I look back at a race that I had a year ago and I think, man, I couldn't even imagine running what I was running now. And they just stack up on each other. So I think those little self accomplishments are just so important, especially no matter what level you're at. You could be running 13 minutes in the 5K, you could be running 20 minutes in the 5K. Even like those people that run marathons and half marathons, and they're in their 40s and they're just trying to get through the motions. Like, their only goal is to finish, to finish, to finish. Like, that's great because they'll get like minutes off their PRs and they'll think, man, now I did that. And that's good. That's good because I bet when they started, they wouldn't have never thought they could do that. So,
Now, some of your accolades that I have here in college in your career are two-time All ACC, three-time All Region, two-time national qualifier, and then four-time school record holder. Now, I have to ask you, based on all of that, what would you say was your greatest accomplishment in your collegiate career?
man, that's a good one. I think probably getting the DMR school record with my other three teammates. It was James Smith, Hayden Norris, and Cooper Cothra. We ran a DMR at University of Arkansas indoor season. I think it was the second meet of the year back in 2023. And I had just ran 4:02 in the mile the week before. Cooper had ran a pretty fast 1,000. I think he ran like 2:27 or something like that, something fast. And then Caden was a good 800 runner. He was a sub 150 guy. And then we had James Smith, who was 46, 47 guy in the 400, and he had just transferred the year before. So we were putting together a team, and it felt like we hadn't really put together a legit team in a long time. And I hadn't really been a part of a DMR because I was more focused on the 5K and the 3K and other events. When my coach told me we were going to put together a team, and knowing that I had ran 4:02 the week before and knowing where everybody else was at, we were super excited to get the school record, which was 9:29, and it was set up perfectly for us. We had the blessing to have OSU in the race with us, and there was a lot of great guys in there. Multiple sub 4 minute milers, multiple All Americans in that race, and it ended up being a 2-man race. And so they were kind of like our pacers in a sense, to where we got to latch onto them, and they helped us run our school record, and we couldn't have done it without them. And we ended up getting the school record by like like tenths of a second. It was so close. And that was just such an amazing accomplishment because just being a part of a school record is nice when it's individual, but doing it on a team is just different. And I imagine that's how a lot of people feel like in the 4x4s, or the hurdles, or the 4x relays. Anybody in the high school collegiate levels, just being a part of the team, knowing that feeling of winning and doing it with your teammates is just the best feeling in the world. So I would say that was probably my most exciting and memorable accomplishment. Maybe not my greatest, but I think probably my most memorable and one that I'll cherish for the rest of my life for sure.
So on that note, what would you say in your career so far from the time you started running to now was your greatest accomplishment, the thing that you're most proud of to this day?
I think in college, probably qualifying for nationals. I mean, I just because in high school, I was so, like I told you, I was so obsessed with winning state, and I never won state. And then I never made nationals. Never made NXN. Like, obviously, one of the top athletes in the state's biggest goals is to make NXN. And it's hard making NXN. And I didn't get to do that my senior year. I didn't get to win state or qualify for NXN. And I beat myself up for that in high school. So then when I got to college and my first real true season running cross country at A&M, I qualified for nationals. It was the craziest thing in the world to me because I was like, man, I never won state. I never qualified for nationals in high school. And my first year running cross country in college, I qualified for the NCAA cross country championship. And it was awesome. So I think even though I didn't do as well as I wanted to, and even though I didn't, place as high as I wanted to, I think that accomplishment of just qualifying at that time, I felt like I had done so much to that point. So definitely my biggest accomplishment and most proud of accomplishment in college. And then I think now post college, I mean, obviously breaking sub 4 minutes in the mile. I mean, seeing all the legends do it with my own eyes, seeing Reed Brown do it in high school when I was 17 and being so inspired. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of distance runners' dreams to break sub 4, and only I think under 3,000 people have done it in the whole world. So to be a part of that small group, it's it's really awesome.
And currently your PR on the mile is 3:58, correct?
Yep.
Are we looking, even though you're really trying to focus on the 5 and the 10K, are you still trying to lower that mile PR if you get the chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just thinking about the environment I was in when I did the sub 4 just gives me so much more confidence that I can run faster because, it was a time trial effort. I wasn't in a race, right? Yeah, we had timers. We had a timing system come down. We had a pacer. We set it up. So, and then we had high schoolers running around cheering me on. So it was set up like it was a race, but at the end of the day, it's a time trial. And so it's a lot different when you're at a meet in Boston or a meet in Arkansas or a meet in California where you're racing against guys that are doing that every single week than it is doing it by yourself on the track with just one pacer. Yeah, I think just knowing that last lap of an indoor mile or that last lap of a 1500, having guys that can close in 52, 53 in the 400 at the end of a mile, I didn't have that in my time trial race. I had to do it all by myself. And my slowest lap was actually my last lap of that mile. So just thinking about, man, if I had somebody there pushing me, had a couple guys pushing me, I mean, why can't I run 3:55 too? I mean, I was on pace of running pretty fast. I think I was on pace to run 3:55, 3:56 in that time trial at one point. I think through a K. So just having that extra bit of push at the end, I think is what I'm kind of looking forward to. Going into my next season in indoor, and that's what I'm going to focus on early in the season when I start indoor back up in December. Is definitely the mile and the 3K, and that is obviously going to build up to my 5K and 10K outdoor. So everything is kind of just building on one another.
So talk to us a little bit about currently your routine as far as the kind of training you're doing and then nutrition, sleep, recovery, strength training, all that stuff that you're incorporating to help you to get to that USA level and then like obviously Olympic trials and stuff like that.
Yeah, so obviously everybody's different when it comes to sleep. Like I know some people have to get like 8 to 9 hours to function. Personally, I can get away with 7 to 8. Sometimes you have your days where you get 6, and it sucks. But uh, I've been able to I've been able to get by some sixes if I take a nap. I'll pay for it, but ideally getting 7 to 8 for me, I'm pretty good there with sleep, nutrition. I eat a lot of carbs, man. A lot of carbs. I mean, I'm a runner. It's like I eat so many carbs: rice, mashed potatoes, pasta. I mean, you name it, I eat it. I've been eating more vegetables this year, which has been good. I've always loved veggies, but I feel like not having my dad going on a little bit of a diet, he eats a lot of vegetables now, so I eat a lot with him. We have a lot of fruit that I incorporate. I love grapes. I eat grapes probably like every day. You can ask my friends. They call me a grape fiend because I eat grapes with like every meal. It feels like. Um, and so that's kind of like my nutrition plan, I guess. I have a lot of protein during the week. I probably have about I probably eat red meat 2 to 3 times a week, which I know there's studies about like, oh, you shouldn't eat red meat, but I guess I guess I'm going against that because I eat a lot of red meat. So I get my fair share of protein. Uh, I try to have a protein shake like every single day now, which I never used to do when I was younger. So kind of getting the routine of having that. And then in terms of training, it's pretty concrete. Monday I have my double thresh day, so I have my for those that don't know, that's 2 workouts in a day. So you have your workout in the morning, which is kind of like your longer stuff, and then you have your little bit quicker stuff in the afternoon, and they call that double threshold. And so I get the majority of my mileage is on Monday, and then Tuesday easy morning. Later that night another shakeout, make it a double, whether that's an 8 and 6 double, whether that's a 6 and 6 double, just getting the mileage in. And at that point, like I don't even focus on time. I'm just kind of getting the legs moving. Wednesday is either a midweek session or a hill session, something that's it's light, but it's more power driven. So giving you an example, that could be anywhere between, a set of 2 by 5 by 200 at mile, 3K, 5K effort, and then jog back down, rest. And then it's not like I'm doing like 20, I'm not doing like crazy amount, or I'm not going out there and I'm doing 10 miles worth of hills, right? Like it's kind of a midweek power session, more focused on the power and just getting up the hill. So that's nothing crazy. We call that the midweek session. Thursday mostly has turned into my off days. I like taking Thursdays off. And then Friday ends up being that big prep session that's harder than the Monday session. Ends up being something on the track, something quick, but that's not double. I normally just knock that out in the morning, and it's pretty good volume. Saturday, been falling in love with the Saturday long runs and just get the legs moving, and then Sunday, normally speed development. So whether that's something quick like 4 by 100, and then 4 by another 100 and I have to hit like the certain time, or maybe we'll do 3 by 150 or 4 by 200, just something that's really quick, longer warm-ups, and longer rest for sure, because that's what speed development is. A lot of people don't understand that speed development's a lot different than speed work. They're two different things. So, you know, you have to incorporate speed development, and you're not incorporating speed development every single day either, or every single week. If you could do it a couple times a month, it's going to be beneficial. And then when you're doing it, you're being assertive to what you're doing with the drills, the rest, and then hitting every rep on time. So it's kind of like being a sprinter in a way, to where it's short, it's quick, but you focus and you get it done. And so that's kind of how my week looks, in terms of training, nutrition, eating, sleeping. That's how it kind of goes.
So what are you currently training for? I know you're preparing for the indoor season, but what's like your next big race that you want to do really, really well?
I guess the next one. I mean, that's kind of the one that I'm eyeing. I think I have a little bit over 8 weeks now. I think December 8th is the official date that I open up, and that's going to be at A&M. So that'll be really cool because I'll be able to do it in a place that I'm comfortable in, racing against people that I've raced against before, and doing it in front of a crowd that I've done it before. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm not too sure if it's going to be a mile or a 3K yet, but that's what we're kind of going to be focusing on these next 2 months as I sharpen up, because I'm still kind of breaking the rust out. Like I've always I haven't stopped training since I finished my season in July when I ran the sub 4. I took a week off, and then a couple down weeks of just easy running and, not doing workouts. And so I've kind of been starting to get back at it a little bit, starting to get back in the routine of almost racing a little bit, but not quite there. And I feel good. I mean, I feel good and I'm excited. I mean, we still have 8 weeks to, I wouldn't even say sharpen up, because even though we're sharpening up, like we're just starting the season and we're going to be training up until the summer. So I'm not going to be in peak shape or anything like that. So I'm just excited to just kind of get back in the racing routine. And so that's what we're kind of working on right now.
Now, I asked a good friend of mine who you also know, Austin Dakwa, shout out to him,
Shout out.
when I was talking with him a little bit. Can you see yourself in the future ever doing what you're doing right now at this level as far as the coaching roles, or at least helping athletes who want to get to this level that you're at? Can you see yourself doing that, not as an athlete, but as a coach eventually?
Maybe. I think on the side for sure. I don't know if I could do it like full time. Like I know some people like dreams of being like full time coaches and being with elite college programs. I'm not sure I could do that. Just because I have other goals and like broadcasting and things that I studied in college. But yeah, no, I would absolutely be open to it, and I think it's inspiring. When you being able to help younger athletes, because you were once in their shoes too. And so there's nothing more motivating than, I guess, teaching it and passing it down to something that you've already learned. So I think, yeah, I mean, I'm never going to turn it down. I just don't know if I would commit to it full time.
Now, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who may want to get into running, may want to get to the level that you're currently preparing and racing at? What's one piece of advice that you give to somebody watching this that may be stuck or may not know where to do, and that may not know what's how to improve? What's a good piece of advice that you give to somebody?
Yeah, I mean, just put yourself out there, do it because you love it. Don't do it because you feel like you have to do it. And I mean, running's tough, man. We all know how humbling the sport is. We all know that it's hard to get out the door every day and do it. And it's hard when you're sore and you're dehydrated, or you're cramping. There's a lot of things that go through mentally. So I would say just do it because you love to do it. And if you do it because you love to do it, then you're going to get better. You're going to find your group of people to run with, and you're going to put yourself out there. And I would just say get involved with run clubs, reach out to people that are good and that have been around the sport and are knowledgeable in the sport. And that's how you're gonna get better. And then if obviously that you're gonna have to commit and take care of yourself, if you have dreams of being in the sport, just put yourself in those people's shoes and knowing, okay, what are they doing that I could do to put myself in that position? Even if I don't ever run what they run, what can I do to put myself in position to do that?
I love it, man. Well, Eric, I want to thank you again for joining me this evening. Guys, if you want to connect or follow Eric on his journey, I will leave all of his socials in the description below. If you haven't watched the last podcast episode or the last YouTube video, the links to both of those will be in the description below as well. And until next time, we will see y'all on the other side.
Thanks, Jonathan.